Good morning. My name is Jesse, and I am with ROI Safety Services, and welcome to our weekly 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time podcast, or whatever you want to call it. We could just call it the weekly safety guy free training. I don't know. Whatever sounds good. My purpose of doing this training really is to assist small business in managing their safety with the ultimate goal of creating zero injury environment. Obviously, that is a clearly what our intentions are to give you the tools to create zero injuries. But why are we doing this? What is the whole purpose of doing this? It's because there is a huge lack in industry, especially for small businesses, in managing safety. We have several hundred small businesses that we work with in California, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, various states other than those. And the most common problem we hear, I just didn't know. I didn't know that I needed to do forklift training. I didn't know that I needed to provide a safety manual or an injury and illness program. I didn't know that I needed to do that. And it's pervasive. It's in every county, city, in almost every industry. Some industries are pretty good about it, mostly aerospace and those types of industries have it pretty dialed in. So that is what we want to provide is a place to go where you can find answers, right? Like, does this apply to me? Does workplace violence apply to me? Does lockout tagout apply to me? Do I need to have house whopper training 40-hour or just 8-hour or even a hybrid of that? Those are all the questions that we get regularly. And so today's topic is going to be a pretty basic one, and it's the top things you need to do for an OSHA inspection, at least to get prepared for one. I just had a customer call yesterday, and it's the same story we hear often. I just got inspected. I don't know what to do. I don't even know what any of these are. Please help. And it's good for ROI because we want to help. Of course, we want to help you, and it's bad for the company that gets inspected because they're going to get a fine. It probably won't, after looking at that particular inspection, probably, I don't want to throw out numbers, but it's not going to be crazy fines, but it's going to, it's going to be at least several $1,000s. And where most of the issues come are making sure that you have all those programs in place. So you're going to be spending a lot of time on programs and backtracking, looking for records, things that you just don't need to do as a small business. Okay, you guys are making parts or whatever you're doing, driving trucks, whatever you're doing in the industry, that is what you do. Okay, you do those things well. Safety is always an afterthought, and what I want to do is put it in front of you. This is going to come sooner or later, right? Just like taxes, you're gonna have to pay them. Sooner or later, you're gonna have a safety issue, and it's gonna be at the worst time ever, right? The worst time ever. And so, at least with taxes, they're gonna come every April or every quarter, however you do it. But safety, you never know when you're gonna have an issue. You never know when OSHA's gonna drop in, and having your shoulders, I don't know, I didn't know I had to do that, is not gonna work. So please follow these 5 things to do, and it will at least help you. It will at least help you get through an inspection. If you do these things, you will have a pretty good program. Now, OSHA inspections can happen anytime. And I have never, ever been involved with an OSHA inspection that did not involve a fine of some sort. And if you're not going to get a fine, I'm not saying all of them end up in fines, but I'm going to say most of them do. And I'm also going to say, forget about the money. It's the effort and time to get all the paperwork and paying for training and doing all these things. that is where you're going to spend a lot of your resources. So the fines aren't even that big a deal unless you have a significant injury. If you have a fatality, the fines are going to be outrageous, and you're going to have Sweet James all up in your business. So I wouldn't be messing around with, yeah, fatalities are another level. But injuries, lost time injuries that bring in OSHA, those are a big deal. That's where you get big fines. But if they come in randomly, the fines are pretty manageable, but it's all the extra work that you got to do to. And I'm going to show you an example. I'm going to show you a really simple sheet that OSHA uses to do an inspection. And it's free. It's on their website. You can go look and see what they're going to inspect for. So they can come in randomly. I would say most of them are from injuries. Most of them are from some sort of injury or a complaint. I have been involved in many, many, many OSHA inspections, and I would say the most common is if you're on the OSHA hit list, and there's a way you can look it up. I'm not going to go over that now, but if OSHA does have a hit list, believe it or not, if you're working with silica, you're on the hit list. And if you're working in construction, you're definitely going to be on the hit list, or the food industry and the hotel industry. That's a new one, the hotel industry. So you're going to get inspected sooner or later, and it's usually from a complaint or random or from an injury. That's pretty much it. How do we deal with it? The first thing you got to do is you got to know what is happening in your company. What industry are you in? What is your SIC code? How do you compare with other companies within your industry? So there's data that you can draw from that. A lot of data. You can identify, okay, we're a machine shop. These are the hazards at most machine shops across the country. So I will look at these specific areas: machine guarding, lockout, tagout, various things like that. And so there's guidelines for you, but it does take work. And I'm going to say it again. You are not experts at this, but you can manage to put some level of safety programs together. They probably won't be, something that a professional can do, but they can at least, the effort can at least generate some sort of good program. But of course, I'm always going to recommend you use a professional like ROI, but you may not have the resources. But I'm going to tell you, I'll be honest with you. You will have the resources if you have an inspection. You will all of a sudden have resources. Believe me, you will. And so rather than safety be an afterthought, put it in front of you now. Put some resources in your budget now. Do an inspection. You can do a walkthrough. There's checklists that you could download off the website, off OSHA's website. There's things and resources you can do. Now, those are just some of the things you can do to look at your hazards, do walkthroughs, identify machine guarding issues, lockout, tag out, slip, strips, and falls, electrical hazards, chemical hazards. Oh, there's so many different things to look at. But you got to do a site assessment. You need to know where you're at. Where do you stand? What actions do we need to take to go forward? Are you working in a loud environment? Do you have forklifts? Do you deal with chemicals? So there's so many things that you need to do in order to implement a solid safety program. So you need to know where you're at. Do a site assessment. Now, number 2 is keep detailed records. Once you figure out, okay, this is what we need to do. Now we want you to do regular inspections. You need to keep training records. You need to keep logs. So you need to keep the OSHA 300 log. That is one of the first things that they're going to look for, is the OSHA 300 log. The person I spoke with yesterday didn't even know what that was. An OSHA 300 log. Now, aside from that log, there should be training records, documented training records. If you didn't document it, it didn't happen. Yes, there are exemptions for not documenting certain things under the OSHA standard. But let me tell you, if it didn't get documented, it didn't happen. I would always be more conservative. And then allowing at least 5 years of records on file, but I would never throw records away. I came from the aerospace industry, so we just don't throw stuff away. You just never know. You got to have proper documentation. And then make sure that all required OSHA documentation is readily available. They're going to want proof of insurance, your workers' comp insurance. They're going to want site inspection records. They're going to want safety committee records. They're going to want safety data sheets. They're going to want, well, if you're in California, they're going to want an assessment of Prop 65 chemicals. Forklift training. Did you do forklift training? We need to see records of that. Oh, and this is a really common one too. We have heat illness. That's a new one. We have workplace violence. Did you do that? So many records you need to keep. It sounds a bit overwhelming because it can be, especially if you're a small shop. If you have 20, 30 people or even 10 people, you still have to do the same thing as if you had 50 people. How do you do it? It's very, very time consuming. So the other aspect is training everybody. You need to have documented training. You need to have a competent and qualified person do the training. So that is another challenge for a lot of small businesses. So employees need to be informed of the hazards in which they work in, not after they start their job, but before they start their job. So before they even start working in your environment, whether it be in a shipping and receiving capacity, a machine shop, an assembly line, they must have training prior to, not after. Okay, so we got to get the training done before they even start work. So you've got to ensure that they understand the risk, the hazards. You need to give them the ability to, hey, I have a complaint, this is unsafe. And so there needs to be a method for that. You need to have a process for that. So training is super important, and training must be done by a competent and qualified person. Now, one of the things we can do is develop a plan, having a clear response plan for when OSHA shows up. Have your 300 logs ready, have your training records ready, have all of your permits ready, and then designate one or two people, depending on the size of your organization, to be the point of contact. That in and of itself will save so much time. If OSHA walked in and you greeted them and you were ready for them, like, have a seat in our conference room, here's my card, let me get a copy of your card or a picture of your I don't even know if they have badges these days, but I haven't seen a badge in years, but I know they give you a card. Probably just ask for a copy of the card, but you can't ask for an ID or some sort of state ID. I have not done that. I usually just rely on their card, and they're not liars. So this person, the person you identify, should definitely know the facility inside and out, usually a plant manager or a lead, and be able to walk the inspector throughout the facility and make sure that you shadow them, do everything that they do. So if they're taking a picture, you take a picture. If they see something and they point it out, if you can fix it right then and there, do it, and also take a picture. This is huge when it comes to these inspections. If you could fix it right then and there, that's awesome. So pictures, fix things as quick as you can, be respectful. And one thing is you immediately require them to wear any kind of PPE that you guys are wearing. Okay, they don't have an exemption. So if there is a process that you require a respirator and they don't have one, they can't go in that area. Now, address hazards immediately. One of the most critical steps in preparing for an OSHA inspection is addressing known hazards. You have to do that. So if you have some equipment that's bad, or you have some machines that needs machine guarding and you haven't done it, oh man, that is a big problem. So make sure you get those done. And if you're doing the self audits, you should be able to identify these quickly and fix them very quickly. On a side note, the OSHA does allow, or I shouldn't say allow, they have a division. And this division will actually come out and do an inspection. Now, I do not recommend that. And the reason is if OSHA came out and they did, it's called OSHA Consult. And if they actually, you invite them into your home and you ask them to do an audit, they do a pretty good job. They're going to do a decent job. The warning I have, or the caution I have, is if they find something that is significant, let's say they find an old punch press that you're using or some sort of process that you have, you definitely will have to take action in a very short period of time versus having a third party consultant come in, identifying it, and then fixing it and doing it within a reasonable amount of time, but not putting you under the pressure that an OSHA consult will put you under. And that is just my firsthand experience working with various companies that have invited OSHA consult in. Not saying they won't do a good job, but they definitely have some restrictions if they find anything significant. So my advice is to always seek out a third party unrelated to OSHA to come out, such as ROI Safety Services. So that's something that we would do, and we do quite often. So I encourage you to consider that, and any kind of hazard that you have, definitely take quick action. If you have a machine guard missing on a drill press, get it fixed quickly. A bench grinder that's out of compliance, just get rid of it. Get rid of it and get a new one in there. I have had over the years so many bench grinders citations, and they're averaging about $7,000. Of course, you don't pay that full amount. You usually get it down to half of that, but still, that's quite a bit of money for a bench grinder that cost, I don't know, maybe $200 at Home Depot, something like that. Here is an example. I just downloaded this 5 minutes before I started this class. This is a document request. Pretty much everything on there is required in some form for the majority of every company out here, out in any state really. You need to have some permits, licenses. You definitely need a 300 log. If you can't see that, I'll try to make it a little bigger, but this is a common form that inspectors use. It's part of their system. They have a program, and this is what I usually work with. No, this is what I work with every time we manage an OSHA inspection. And so they tell you exactly what they want. It's right here. Every OSHA inspection is going to require a license, some sort of permitting, facility layout plan, 300 logs, and workers' comp insurance, the IIPP for the state of California. And depending on what state you're in, if you're in Nevada, you need one. I think Arizona requires one. I'm not sure, but various states do require a manual. Do you have any records of inspection? Do you have training records? Do you have safety committee meetings? It's all right here. This is what they're going to request. And there's no excuses for not having these because it is a hard requirement, okay? There's plenty more workers' comp exposure records. So if you do any air monitoring, if you're working around silica or any sort of heavy acid or ammonia, you need to have air monitoring reports. There's quite a bit of requirements for various industries. This is kind of like your pre-game check, right? Print this out and just start checking. Hey, I got this, I got this, I got everything here. I'm going to give you guys something that is very, very valuable. One of the biggest citations I've ever had working in industry was I had a significant injury occur at one of the facilities, and when OSHA came in and did the investigation, they determined that we did not have a robust a robust accountability program or an effective training program. And so basically what they said, we did not have objective evidence of disciplinary action of any of the employees that were working at this particular facility. In other words, we weren't writing people up. And at that time, that culture was definitely not writing anybody up. It was not the best culture for safety. There was a lot of, turning the blind eye, and just letting people do whatever. Nobody ever gets hurt here until we had that really really serious injury, and our fine was at $70,000, and that was a significant fine for something, administrative. So that was pretty eye opening for me, that you really need to have evidence of disciplinary action if you want a really really good robust training program. So you got to have an assessment, you got to have an action plan to fix those issues, you got to have training records. You definitely need to show that you are training your employees. You got to have signatures, and then you need to have disciplinary records. That is the process. So if you understand what planning, doing, checking, and acting is, if any of you are familiar with, if you have a quality management system background, that's how the systems should be ran, just like that. So it doesn't matter what program, every program should be ran under planning, doing, checking, and acting, accountability, assessment, and getting better. So I hope you got something out of this. I would really enjoy some feedback. I will continue to do these weekly. I will address various topics. I will even address fatalities and possibly some injuries. We've had 2 fatalities, at least in the past few months, within the Southern California area. Some get news coverage, most don't. We definitely had a serious fatality over at Tina's Burritos, where a young man fell into a meat grinder. That sounds terrible, because it is. And I haven't heard much other than he was a young man. Somehow he fell into the meat grinder, and that's pretty much all I know. I think there's some more stuff out there, but I'll keep my eyes open for that. But give me your feedback. Just as a quick plug for ROI, we do provide these sorts of services. We have a subscription service, so we can help manage all of your programs at a low cost fee. But besides that, I just want you guys to really, reach out to me if you need help. Text me. I will be available if you text me. I absolutely care about people, and I want people to get home at the end of the day. This is a business, and we make money training and coaching and supporting local companies in California, Arizona, Nevada, Florida, and various other states. So we definitely want to connect with you, and I hope to get some feedback so that I can kind of guide week after week where we want to go. I'll probably do something simple next week when it comes to this free training. Maybe we'll look at doing some HAZCOM training, lockout, tagout, so we can just pick various topics, or we can look at accidents and kind of see where that takes us. And I have some interviews that I have done in the past on this channel. I interviewed a OSHA consult person, which that was really fun. That was a couple of years ago. And then I interviewed a OSHA, or a workers' comp attorney, and she was amazing. So take a look at that. Maybe we'll do something like that soon, but I appreciate it. Give me your feedback. I'd love to hear it. And if anyone wants to reach out to me personally, you can call me on my cell phone, 714-520-1608. God bless each of you, and I hope you have a wonderful week.